Today we're covering Chapter 3, Lesson 4, the percent equation. And you've already learned that usually when there's a percent sign, we multiply. So we're going to kind of use that today. If you have a textbook at home, it's textbook page 245. When we set up the percent proportion, we learned that it was is over of, and is represented the part, and the of was usually next to the whole number, and then it was some percent over 100. So remember that is next to the part. So in this sentence up here, 3 is 50% of 6. 3 is the part. 50% is the percent. And 6 is next to of, so that's the whole. And we've talked before how of means to multiply. Well, in math world, is means equal. So there's our equation. Part equals percent times the whole. And if you'll remember on lesson 1, that's what we did. We multiplied the percent times the whole. So this would be 3 is equal to 0.5 times 6. There's our equation. Part equals percent times the whole. So for example 1, what is 12% of 150? So start with our equation. Part equals percent times the whole. Well, 12 is probably going to be the percent because it has a percent sign, and you have to change it to a decimal. So 0.12 times an equal of 150. So that's the whole because of is usually next to the whole. And we don't know what the part is. It says what, so we need it to be a variable. N is equal to 0.12 times 150. And then we just work that out. 150 times 0.12. So we get 1800. But there's 2 spaces in our problem behind the decimal, so we need to move it 2 spaces in our answer. So this side of the equation is 18, and n is on the other side, so n equals 18. Let's try another one. And I'm going to erase this over here so that I have room to write. Example 2 says 10 is what percent of 40? So again, start with your equation. Part equals percent times the whole. Well, in this problem, 10 is next to is, so that's my part. 40 is next to of, so that's the whole. So what we're looking for is the percent. That's going to be the variable. Now this time it's not with the numbers on one side. We have a variable next to the numbers. Well, to figure out what the variable is, we need to get him alone. And in order to get him alone, we look at what's beside him, times 40, and we do the opposite. So the opposite of times 40 would be to divide by 40, and we show division like that. But if you do it to one side of the equation, you must do it to the other side. The equal sign is my divide, so I have to do it to one side and then to the other. On the right side, the 40's cancel because 40 divided by 40 would make 1, and 1 n is just an n. And then on the other side, I kind of have a fraction. Now I could divide it out, 10 divided by 40. I could also look at it as a fraction and simplify it to 1/4. And 1/4 as a decimal is 0.25. So n is equal to 0.25. Let's do another example. Start out with your equation. Part equals percent times the whole. And it says 13 is 26% of what number? So 13 is next to is, that's the part. 26 is next to the percent sign, so that's probably the percent, but I need to change it to a decimal. So remember, if it's a percent and we're changing it to a decimal, we go to the left, 2 spaces, so 0.26, and we don't know what of is, so that's going to be the variable. Then remember, whatever you do to the right side, you have to do to the left. And we want to get that n alone. So we look what's happening to the n times 0.26. And we do the opposite of times 0.26, which is divide by 0.26 on both sides. When I do that on the right, those cancel. N is by himself. And then I'm just going to have to go work that problem out. 13 divided by 0.26. Remember, you have to move the decimal 2 spaces. So I have to move it 2 spaces on the inside of the house. So now my decimal's back here. And 26 goes into 130 about 5 times. Because 5 times 26 is 130. And then 26 goes into 0 times. So n is 50. Let's look at some of the examples you're supposed to do by yourself. Again, we're going to be using the equation part equals percent times the whole. Every time. So you want to start with that on every sentence, every problem. What number is 27% of 52? 27%, that's the percent. So I want to change that to a decimal. Times, an equal sign, of 52. Remember, whole is next to of, so 52 is the whole. So we're trying to find the part, which is n, because we do not know what that is. Let's look at number 3 and 4. Start out with the equation part equals percent times the whole. What percent of 88 is 33? Of 88, so that's the whole. Is 33, that's the part. So what we're looking for is the percent. And what we're going to need to do on this one is divide. Remember to divide both sides by 88, because you're going to divide by whatever's next to the variable. And you can treat that like an equation, like a fraction. 33 over 88 can be simplified by 11, and it might come out to some fraction that you know. So let's set that up. Again, start with that equation. Part equals percent times the whole. What number is 33% of 360? So 33%, that's the percent sign, so that's the percent. We need to change it to a decimal, which would be 0.33 of 360. So that's my whole. So the thing that we're looking for is the part. So that's the variable. So again, you're just going to have to multiply to figure out what the n is.